We don't always see what's right in front of us, and sometimes we can take the littlest things for granted. Take Molly, for example. She waited until the very last minute to do all of her community service hours. Although this ended up working out well for her as she made new friends, went on an adventure, and maybe, just maybe, met the love of her life. You can find this collection of poems between pages 126 and 137 in the book Safe Being Read by Sonya. Whoa! I am sitting here in my new favorite restaurant eating a slice of salted caramel pie, while sitting across from my new favorite person, and we're talking about how better both our lives would be if we were old enough to drive, and how weird it would be to be the star of our own reality show, and about how Krista once broke his thumb playing t-ball, and I once broke my nose walking into a sliding glass door that was so clean I didn't even see it. We even talked a little bit about how hard it must be to be homeless like Red, and about how much I want to help her get back to her family. And the whole time his soulful brown eyes are gazing into mine, and I have no idea why, but I can't even taste the pie. One boy walks home after you've been on a date that turned into something else for a while, but then sort of turned back into a date again at the end. You feel like each step you take is happening in a dream, or maybe in a memory that's somehow being made right now. When a boy walks you home after you've been on a sort of first date, the back of his hand seems to keep bumping into the back of your hand, and you can't tell if it's by mistake or on purpose, but either way, every time it happens, it sort of makes you dizzy. When a boy walks you home after the weirdest, but quite possibly the best first date that any two people on earth have ever been on, and you get to your house way too soon and pause together in the shadow of the sycamore tree at the edge of your yard, you suddenly get this feeling like you might faint or something, because what would you do if he took hold of your hands, looked into your eyes, and then you leaned down and he kissed you? But you don't get to find out, because he doesn't kiss you. Darn. So we're just sort of standing here instead, not kissing. And all of a sudden, Crystal blurts out that his family's going on vacation, that they're leaving tonight, taking the red-eye to New York City. And that until he met me, he was sort of excited about it. But now that he has met me, he wishes he didn't have to go. He wishes he could stay right here and help me get Red back to her family. But he does have to go, and we both agree that this totally sucks. And then he smiles at me with the saddest, most warmest eyes, and I just about keel over. He shrugs another gorgeous little shrug and says goodbye, and I say goodbye back, and he starts walking away from me. Only he's walking backwards so he can keep on looking at me. And we lock eyes till he disappears behind my neighbor's cypress hedge, like a full moon that's been swallowed up by the clouds. And I'm staring at that hedge, feeling kind of thrilled, but kind of miserable at the same time, because I just realized that Christo doesn't even know my number. But then he pops back into view and calls out, "I don't even know your number!" And my heart practically explodes. I shout out to him and he puts in his phone. He waves goodbye and I wave back. And then he does that walking backwards thing again, until he disappears behind the hedge a second time. And I stare at that hedge, and I wait. And I wait. Only this time he doesn't reappear. But then my phone rings, and Krista says, "I just called to say hi." I laugh and say hi back, and for a few seconds, we just sort of listen to the sound of each other, not saying anything at all. Then he says, "So, okay, bye." And I say goodbye back, and when he hangs up, I clutch the phone to my chest. I sigh, then head up to the front walk, push open the door. Pixel sniffs the air and darts inside. I phone behind him like a starry-eyed girl from a sappy movie. But what happens next makes me feel as if I've drifted into an alternate universe. Because I could swear I smell latkes, those perfectly golden, perfectly crispy potato pancakes that Mama only makes once a year. During Hanukkah. She remembered after all. A second later, she bursts from the kitchen with a platter full of them. Dad pokes his head out from his den. With a bright smile on his face, he says, Ready to light the first candle, mozzarella? I nod and swallow hard. He hasn't called me mozzarella for almost a year. It's a freaking Hanukkah miracle. For a split second, I almost expect to see my big brother Noah come bounding down the stairs to wrap me up in one of his famous bear hugs. But, of course, he doesn't.